Hi, this is a demo of how live apps could be used to build tactical applications for an oil and gas scenario. So in the scenario that we're building this application for, the business actually already uses TIBCO's Insight platform to monitor oil and gas pumps. And as you can see, they're monitoring pressure and motor and using streaming analytics and predictive capabilities to predict when wells, pumps, motors are about to fail by detecting anomalies in pressure and motor current. They do all that using the Insight platform, using enterprise on-premise software, and they could use BPM potentially to actually manage those outages in terms of a control scenario. So that whole system is built on a BPM platform and the streaming analytics platform on premise. But let's consider a scenario where the guys that actually go out and fix these pumps see a problem that they've not experienced before, and they need to go and collaborate with the manufacturers of the pumps. This is an ideal scenario for TIBCO Live Apps. It's a tactical application where high agility is required. It's not a big application which you might build with collaboration from a centre of excellence or an IT department alongside a business analyst, as you would with an enterprise BPM platform, but instead it's something that could potentially be built by anybody in an organisation, a business owner or manager or member of a team who needs to quickly create an application to enable them to collaborate between their engineers looking at the pumps and the manufacturer of the pumps themselves. So let's see how we could do that in Live Apps in literally minutes. Okay, so I'm in Live Apps. Let's imagine that I'm the manager of a team of engineers that go out and fix these pumps. First thing I want to do is I want to onboard to TIBCO Live Apps my partner who manufactures the pumps. So what I've already done, if I go into my subscription, you can see I've already invited an email address, mendenhalltech@outlook.com. I've invited them to join my Live App subscription. You can imagine I'd probably add a lot more resources from the Mendenhall Tech team if required. Now what would have happened when I actually added them to my subscription was that the guys at Mendenhall would have received an email inviting them to join TIBCO Cloud Live Apps, and they literally just go and click on the accept button, enter the details, and they're onboarded into the environment. And at that point they can log into Live Apps. Okay, so that's them provisioned on the platform. It's easy enough, no setup required there. What I also did was actually within Live Apps, I created a couple of groups that I'm going to use in the application I create. So there's really two groups of people that I want to deal with in this application. So I'm just going to go into the administrator and show you those groups. I'm going to skip the video. If I go and see, you have a pump engineers group and a Mendenhall support team. So pump engineers are my resources who go out and look at the pumps, and the Mendenhall support team are the technical specialists from the pump manufacturer who I need to collaborate with and get assistance when my engineers see a problem they can't fix. Okay, so we've got some groups set up, and you'll see that I've already added Mendenhall as members of the Mendenhall support team group. So let's go and actually create an application. I'm going to go into the designer, and I'm actually going to do add application, and I'm going to do that by starting a wizard. You'll see on the right hand side I do have the choice to use a templated application if I wanted, but let's start the wizard and let's answer a series of questions that help me build this application. So what is the subject of my app? Well, it's engineering assistance, because I want to get assistance from the Mendenhall Tech guys when my engineers have a problem. Okay, what states are there? Well, the first thing that probably happens when I create a case is that it's pending for Mendenhall to give me a response or some assistance. So let's add pending. And then the Mendenhall guys will likely provide a response, so that would be responded. And then finally it might be closed. Now I'm sure there'll be lots of other states or scenarios that I might want to build, but that's enough to get started. So when I first create an engineering assistance record, which state will it be in? Well, that will be pending, because I'll be waiting for the Mendenhall guys to come back to me. Let's do next. Okay, which data do I need to store? So let's think of some data that I need to pass from my engineer to the Mendenhall support team. Let's start with the date of when the incident happened. So put reported date, equipment type perhaps, and also a serial number of the equipment. It'd be useful for me to write the symptom that my engineer is seeing. Eventually I'll need a recommendation for Mendenhall, so let's add a data attribute for that. And finally, let's have some notes just to allow some free textual conversation within the case. Okay, next. Okay, is there a follow-up task that always happens after the engineering assistance is created? Well, yes, the first thing I'd really like to happen is an email to actually go to the Mendenhall team to tell them that my engineer has something they need them to help. They need their help with. So let's call it notify Mendenhall. What state will it be in when it's complete? Well, it'll still be pending because I'll still be waiting for Mendenhall to come back to me with a response. Is there an action that might happen? Well, yeah, something that might happen is that the Mendenhall guys might respond. So let's create an action called respond. Now, I'm sure there'll be lots of other actions like ask for more information or reject request. But let's add those later. For now, let's just stick with the respond action. Okay, what specific states will my users be able to perform a respond action? Well, they'll only be able to do a respond when it's in the pending state. And when the respond is complete, well, then it will be in the responded state. Is there a task after respond? Well, yes, I'd like to allocate a task to my engineers to actually review response, so let's do that. And then when that's done, what's the state? Let's say for now that the state is closed. At a later point, I could provide the ability to go back to the Mendenhall engineers for more information. Oh, we've got a create button now, so that's enough information to create my app. Okay, so what you can see is we've created some data, some creators, and actions. And actually, just by running that wizard, I've got everything I need to actually test and run an application. So you can see if I just go to the tester, I can set up some users. So let's set test user 1 is actually a member of the pump engineers group. Test user 2 is a member of Mendenhall's support team. Okay, I'm happy with that. So let's go to test user 1, and I could actually go and create a new engineering assistance case, and I could enter some data. Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking that maybe I should give a bit more information to the application and set some data types on these fields so it's actually a date picker rather than free text. And I could have a drop down for equipment type. That'll be easy enough to do, so let's go and enhance the application to do that. Okay, I clicked on the data editor, and here's all my data types. So if I select reported, I can actually drill down and set that to be a date, and let's set it to be the current date. That makes sense. Equipment type, well, I'd like that to be a pick list of values. So for example, we might have pump, it could be a motor, it could be a sensor. I'm sure there's lots more I could choose. A serial number, that would be text, but let's just make it 10 characters. Let's give it a default value as well. A symptom will be text, but we're going to need more than 50 characters. Same with recommendation. And notes. Let's give the ability to have multiple lines of text in that one. You can also see I can create my own data type. So if there's a lot of information about a pump, I could actually create a pump data type with all the various attributes inside that. I'm not going to do that for now. I can also go in and edit states if I wanted. Right now I've got pending, responded and closed, but under responded, for example, I could add some more states like accepted or rejected. I might want to put those in what's called a phase. So in the phase of response, you could either accept or reject. I'm not going to do that for now. Okay, so let's look at the create engineering assistance. It looks like we've got some work to do in that process. Let's go in there. Okay, we're in the process editor for create engineering assistant. So this is when my pump engineers want to create a case to send to Mendenhall. Well, the first thing I need to do is to actually click on the properties and say who can do this. And the only people that can create one of these cases will be the pump engineers. So let's limit access to the pump engineers. That's good. What happens here on this blue task is enter engineering assistance data. So this is me entering the initial data. Well, there's some things that I need to make sure they enter. So let's select those data fields. So definitely want to see reported equipment type. Probably don't want to see the recommendation at this time. I can actually enforce that this one, for example, is read-only because it was generated, and this one's required. Symptoms required as well. And let's make notes optional. Okay. So I've entered the data. Then the next thing will happen is notify Mendenhall. But actually, I want this to be an email, so I should be able to select email. Yeah. And let's go to email, and I can enter an email. Okay, so this will go to the Mendenhall support team. And let's put some information in the email so they know what to do. I can actually enter some data in that email from my case, so let's put the serial number. So what we can do here is actually add a case link to the email so that my Mendenhall assistance team don't need to log on to an application necessarily to fix this, but they can actually just follow the link to drill straight into the case and respond with the right information. Let's save that email. Okay. I think I'm done with my case creator. Now let's look at the action. So we've got an action to respond. So this is the thing that the Mendenhall team will do to actually respond to my request for help. So let's go and add some more detail here. There's a full process modeler in here, so we could actually add conditions and extra tasks, call services, all those kind of things we might do. Okay, so first of all, who can click respond? Let's go to availability, and we'll just limit that to be the Mendenhall support team. That's good. And when they respond, let's actually limit the data that they can type in, because we just want them to be able to enter in the response, the recommendation, and maybe add some notes. Let's make recommendation required, and the notes can be optional. And then we said that we'd want to deliver this user task to the pump engineers. So let's choose the pump engineers. And what we want to display to them is going to be some data with the response. Choose data fields. So let's have the recommendation and the notes. Recommendation will be read only. Notes will be optional. What we can also do is at the end of that task say that my user can actually choose the next state, so they could either leave it as responded or they could move it to close. Actually, we could make it pending again. Do that too. Okay, I've got no more to-dos in my application, so that all that's left now is for me to test it, and then I'll be able to actually put it into production. So just like before, we get the test screen, and I could go ahead and select my users. Remember, test user 1 is a pump engineer and test user 2 is the Mendenhall team. Notice when I click test user 2, the options create a case has disappeared, whereas test user 1 has that case. So I can actually test the application all the way through, including receiving emails to my own account. If I went to go and create the case, then I'd see the data as I defined it. Let's not do that from here. Let's actually go ahead and put this into production and see how it works. Okay, so I can now lock this application for publication. That's done. And now I can go to the admin view. And I've got ready to publish. Okay, great. So let's click the publish button. And I've now published my application. My application is now in production, deployed to TIBCO Cloud. Let's go and see what happens if I create a case as a pump engineer. I'm going to do create case, engineering assistance, and let's raise a request for some help with this motor. Let's submit that case. Okay, I should now be able to go and locate that case. I can either just do a search and get a list of all cases back, or I could even start to do a textual search and it will find the right case for me. So here's my case. I can actually see all the data in my case, and I can also see the states that it needs to go through, and I have a business audit. And I can also upload documents. Well, it would be useful if I uploaded a document to pass to the Mendenhall team to tell them perhaps what the symptom is. And it just so happens that I've actually taken a picture of the smoke coming out of the pump. Let's upload that file. That's uploaded. And I can now see that it's in the pending state. So I've got no tasks to do and no ability to do any actions, but I'm just going to save this as a favourite when I come back to it later. Let's now switch persona over to the Mendenhall resource and see what he would now receive. So first of all, remember that my Mendenhall guy has an account now on TIBCO Cloud, so he can go and sign in. And because I've set him up as a user rather than a developer, he's just going to go straight into the case manager application. And if he had cases, he'd be able to manage them from here. Of course, he can't actually create a case at this point because he doesn't have the right access. Let's just click on my email, and here we go. I can see the email of the case that I created saying there's been an issue with some equipment. So now my Mendenhall engineer can review the information and click View Engineering Assistance Case. And that will take my engineer straight to the case. Now this is the same screen as seen by the pump engineer, but notice that they have an action to respond. So the first thing they might do is read through the information and perhaps take a look at the picture that's been provided. And yet we can see there's quite a lot of smoke coming out that pump, so we need to probably fix something. Let's go and add some response information and respond back to my pump engineer. Let's enter a recommendation. Okay, I can go ahead and submit that. And you'll notice the stage has actually gone to responded. I no longer have any work to do, and there's no tasks that I can actually go in and do as the Mendenhall engineer. I'll save that for Mendenhall as well, and let's just jump back to the guy that raised the case, and he should get the case back again. So I set it to be a favourite case, so I can click on it in the bottom left. And here we go, I see I now have a work task to review the response, and as my pump engineer I can review the response from the Mendenhall tech team, and I can go ahead and either set this to closed or pending. Let's leave it as pending for now. Okay, let's go back to the TIBCO Cloud Developer. Now what would happen if I wanted to, say, extend my case? Well, you'll notice that my application is now locked, but we can actually go and do create new draft and start creating new capabilities. So one of the things I might want to do is to actually go and add an action for my pump engineer to order a part. So I could build a whole process that allows me to order a part, but let's just enter some simple data to start with around that part. So if I order a part, I probably need the part number. Let's do that. And let's also add some data for quantity and probably an order ID. Okay, so I've created some data fields, and what I might now choose to do is actually to go and call a service that's been provided to me to order that part. So you'll notice here I have worked with my company's data services, and I can actually select an existing service that's been provided to me called order parts. And then I can actually go in and map from my data into the service. And I can map output the order ID, for example. And then I could add a new task that just confirms the order. And that would just be, for example, an email or a task. Goes to the pump engineer. It just lets me choose some of those process data fields to display. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about this service that was exposed. So as a developer on the platform, I might not know anything about REST services, but luckily somebody in my organisation has made this service available for me to call to order parts. And that's actually been done by the web integrator component within TIBCO Cloud. So I can just show you what that looks like. Let's go over to my subscription. And you'll notice that I have both live apps and integration. If I click on integration and do launch integration, you'll see that I'm set up as an integration user. And I can actually create integration services on this platform. So here we go, here's order parts, and what I can actually see if I go and click order parts is that I've actually gone and used the web integrator capability to create a process flow that lets me order parts. Now I could actually go and add some connectivity to different systems or to REST services to make that actually easier to use and actually do the service call for me. But for right now, I've literally just stubbed the order ID to come back. Okay, I'm not going to change any of that for now. I'm just going to go back and I'm actually going to go and run that order part. So let's go back to live apps. Okay, so we can see my process is almost ready to go. One last thing I'm going to do on order part is just to make sure that only my pump engineer can order parts. And perhaps they should only be able to do that when it's in the pending or the responded state. Okay, so once again I can test my application. But I'm not going to test it now, I'm just going to push it straight to production. I've got some work to do. So the system's actually telling me I have a problem, you have work to do. Let's see what I've forgotten to do. When I do update engineering assistance data, that's the first form, it's trying to set the state as closed, so that was the default. Actually, I want to say don't change the state there. So that's great, let's fix my problem before I actually even deployed anything. And now, once again, I can test it. And then I should be able to lock it for publication and actually upgrade my app. Okay, lock for publication. And we can actually go to the admin view. So remember, I already have an existing case on the system for when I had my smoking pump incident. Well, what's really great is that I can now actually just go and upgrade my application. And every existing case will be upgraded to my new version 2 app. And actually, if I just jump into Case Manager, I can go to my existing case, and I now have a new action to order a part. I can click Order Part, enter the information that I need, submit that task, and that will go ahead and call that service to me to order that part. Okay, so what you've seen is the ability for a manager in an organisation, or any resource for that matter, to actually go into TIBCO Cloud, a facility that's been provided to them potentially by their IT department or that they've subscribed to themselves, and they've been able to actually create a very simple collaboration app between themselves and a partner organisation in literally 20 to 30 minutes through a wizard without any technical requirements whatsoever. They've been able to put that into production.